Hi all, today I'm planting the rest of my tomatoes. I've got 4 varieties to plant, and I'm going to show you in complete detail how you go about planting tomato seeds. So we're going to be planting 4 different kinds of tomatoes today. They are all indeterminates, which means that they continue to grow and grow and grow through the season, and they continue to produce. So we're going to be planting early girls, which, just like the way they sound, they are early. They germinate very quickly, 7 to 10 days, and they harvest in 52 days, which is great for an early tomato. Also, we have what's called a sweetie. It's a cherry tomato, a little bit bigger than maybe the Sweet 100s. Again, germinate 7 to 10 days, and the days to harvest is 70 to 75 on these. So these are a little bit later than the early girls. And we have the delicious tomato, which truly is delicious. It germinates in 7 to 14 days. Days to harvest is 77 days. So it's going to come into fruition right about the same time as the sweeties. And last but not least, we have the Brandywine. This is the first year I'm going to be actually doing the Brandywine. I chose it because it's a later tomato. Days to germination is 7 to 10 days like most of them, but days to harvest can be anywhere from 90 to 120 days, which means that I'm going to have some of these as we're going into fall, which is what I really want. Because as anybody who's planted tomatoes knows, towards end of August, beginning of September, your harvest is really still there, but then, you're creeping into the middle to the end of September and things are really dwindling down. But I wanted some for that early fall crop, and these will work well for that, provided we don't get an early frost. Which, I'm in the Northeast, we don't normally get an early frost, not a heavy one anyway. A light one, I can just cover these guys up and they'll continue on. Usually it's early to mid-October before we really see a hard frost. So, let's get started. Okay, so I have a seed starter mix here. The one that I use is called Jiffy, and it's an organic seed starter mix. It has peat moss in it, coconut coir, and vermiculite, and it makes a very light seed starter mix. You see how light it is? It's light and fluffy. That way, when you plant the seeds, they don't have a lot of heavy soil to go through. So, I'm going to throw some water in them, because you don't want to plant dry, but you don't want it saturated either. So we're just going to kind of guesstimate as to how much water to put in here. You can always add more water. So, you see how if you squeeze it, it just holds together really nicely. But then if you go like this and crumble it, it crumbles apart. That's how you know that you've got enough water in it, but not too much. You don't want to be able to wring water out of it. Not good. If you happen to put too much water in it, don't use it the way it is. Add some more soil until you get it to the right consistency. Otherwise, you could just wind up rotting your seeds away because the soil is too moist. I did that with eggplant one time. Waited and waited. The eggplant seeds, they never germinated. And I realized it was because I just had way too much water in the soil. So, what I'm going to do, I'm planting 4 different varieties of tomatoes. I'm going to use 2 trays because I don't need a lot of any of the varieties. I really only want 2 plants for each variety, but I'm going to plant 3. So I'm going to plant 2 varieties in each one of these, 3 seeds for each variety. And when you fill these trays, You don't want to like pack the soil down super hard. Just like that is fine. I've got 2 varieties of tomatoes going into each one of these pots. So what I'm going to do is label them so that I know which ones are where. So I've got 4 labeling sticks, and I'm going to put the type of tomato and today's date so I know when I planted it. So we have the early girl. And now what I'm going to do is just make some little holes right in the center of each one of these slots. Cells, I guess they call them cells. These tomatoes all get planted 1/4 inch deep, so that makes it easy. Just guesstimate. As long as your soil is fairly loose, which if you're using a seed starter mix it will be, which by the way you don't have to use the one I'm using. As long as you use a seed starter mix, they're all pretty fine in nature. You don't want anything that's heavy, has a lot of sticks in it, or anything like that. I wouldn't use a regular potting mix. And if you're not doing a lot of seeds, you don't even need a big bag or more than 1 bag. Just get a small bag, or just get one of these. Anyway, okay. So we're ready to plant, and here's the early girl. All these tomato seeds are going to pretty much look alike. I'll show you. They look just like the seeds inside your tomatoes. Matter of fact, you could, if you had a favorite tomato, you could harvest those seeds and dry them out and use them. Oh, these little guys. There we go. Now these, you'll notice on this packet it says pelleted seeds. So these seeds are coated. They're not actually going to look like the ones that come into your tomato, that you get inside a tomato you're eating, because they have a coating on them. And I'm just going to drop one in each one of these cells. So there's 3 early girls that have been planted. Pretty fast, eh? And we'll just cover each one of them over. When I'm done, I'll water. So now that's the early girl, and here's my early girl stick. So I'm going to put it right here. And then with the early girl, I'm going to plant the sweetie. Now this does not say pelleted, so it's going to look like a regular tomato seed. There you go. Looks just like a regular tomato seed. And they're tiny. I'm going to put one in there. One in there. And one in there. And the rest of them go back in the pack. You can use these seeds, by the way, from one year to the next. They're probably good for about 5 years. Okay, let's cover over the sweetie. Okay. And I'm going to put this one right here. So the way I'm going to be able to tell which side the third one is on is because whichever side the stick is on, that's where there's 2. So there's on the long side. So there's 2 here, 1 here. There's 2 early girls here, 1 here. That's how I can tell. That's like my system. You might have a different system of your own. I'm just going to pat these down a little bit. Whatever system works for you is fine. Just make sure you label them. All right. And I've got the Delicious. And again, this one does not say pelleted. On the back of every seed packet, it gives you a lot of information. First and foremost, it tells you, depending on where you live in the country, when you should actually plant. I live in the Northeast, which is right up here. It's in blue. I should plant between May and June. Now, I'm starting these inside. They'll go outside. They'll be ready to go out right around Memorial Day. Today is it's the beginning of the 2nd week in April. So I give them a good head start inside. But it also tells you how long it's going to take for them to germinate. This particular one takes 7 to 10 days. It's going to tell you how deep to plant it, 1/4 of an inch deep in your cells. It's going to tell you how long you can expect before you're going to be able to get a harvest. Anywhere from 90 to 120 days, and that just depends on the conditions that it's growing in, how much sun they're getting, they're being properly taken care of, watered, etc. And this is going to tell you, if you're planting them outside, how far apart you should plant them. Now, I will confess, I don't pay too much attention to this, because you're going to find that most tomatoes tell you about 3 feet apart. Well, you know, if you've got a lot of plants, unless you've got a super big garden, that may not be possible. I generally leave about 1.5 to 2 feet between the plants all the way around it, and that's sufficient. I do stake them up, which helps so that you can get in between them. Just some information. It also gives you planting instructions, you know, how to go about planting if you're planting outside, when to start them if you're planting indoors, when to start them. It gives you a little bit of information about the fruit itself. And you'll notice here it also says indeterminate as opposed to determinant. Indeterminate means you're going to pick that fruit and it's going to keep producing more fruit. Determinate means you're going to pick that fruit, and once you pick it clean the first time, that's it, it's done. You can pull that plant out, you're not going to get any more fruit. Okay, and again, these are not pelleted, so they're going to look like regular tomato seeds. Regular. I always have to look to make sure it actually went in the hole, because they're so tiny. There. Oops, put the rest of them back. A couple of them escaped me. Okay, this is the Brandywine. Color it over. Pat it down. And this stick is going in on this side, alongside, and I know I've got 2 Brandywine here and 1 Brandywine here. Going the long way, there's 2 and 1. Like I said, that's my system. You may have a different system, that's fine, whatever works. Now, I'm just going to need to water them. So to water these, I'm going to water them from the bottom. And I have a tray here. It's a tray that you can actually put your seed trays in, and then you can water from the bottom. Now, I'm going to be putting more seeds in here. I'm going to be putting more of these trays of different varieties of seeds in, but not right now. So what I'm going to do, because I want to get these guys watered from the bottom, is a little trick that I've got. I make, out of aluminum foil, I use aluminum foil for a lot of things, I make a tray that I can just set those two in, so that when I water them, I'm not like filling this whole tray with water. I'm just filling this little spot in here with water. I find that it works pretty well. So I'm just going to put water in this little aluminum foil tray. Works great. I'm going to leave the water in here for, I don't know, probably half an hour, just to make sure they get a good drink. I've got maybe about, a quarter of an inch of water in here. Give them a little spray from the top using a spray watering container, just to kind of help things along a little bit. And in about a half an hour, I'll take them out of this foil tray. Whatever water is left, I'll just pour off. So the tomatoes have been watered, and they're in the seed bed that I made out of aluminum foil about a month and a half ago. I've got some peppers that are growing in there as well, and some eggplant. This seed bed is made of aluminum foil. They're under grow lights, and the aluminum foil helps to reflect light, and it also helps to keep heat in. I've got a thermometer in there. Let's see what the temperature is right now. 71 degrees. Perfect for germinating seeds. Once they germinate, I'll do another video. Have a nice night. Bye-bye.